What is up, Wretched Nation? We're in the car, hopefully to go pick my bike up for the final time. We're not going to get into it real quick right now, but we're going to go pick the roadglide up. We've been dealing with a wobble issue for a long time, probably a little over 6 months at this point, mainly just highway speed. But I'm hopefully done with this problem. I will be hopefully getting to New Jersey exactly a week from now. I got a road trip planned and I've got to get this bike right. It is on the stock shocks. I want to ride it back, see how it does, and if everything's great, we're going to throw the Legends back on to get them situated. But I've got very little time to get all this done, and it needs to get done. But let's get this bike and hope for the best.
Alright guys, we finally picked the bike up. Spent a lot of time there chatting. But we got the bike, we got a new tire. Honestly, that old tire we took off, that was a rough shape. I put 4,000 miles on it. I knew it was losing a little bit of air pressure, and sure enough, once you got it off and got to looking at it, there was little pinholes in it everywhere. Talking and kind of busy, I didn't film it, I didn't really think it. But there was pinholes everywhere in that tire, losing a little bit of pressure. And on the inside of the tire, you could see there was two stripes on the whole inside, you know, like the side of it, that were raised up. And then the tire itself was just, it was worn really bad. Remember, only 4,000 miles. And the sidewall flexed like crazy. He did not have another, it was a Metzler Cruise Tech. He did not have another 18, but he had a 16. Now, obviously, they're going to be a little different, but out of all the used, worn-out tires he had, none of the sidewalls flexed at all. They were very strong, very stiff, and that Cruise Tech that we took off was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. So I'm wondering if that wasn't a big part of our issue, because way back when, we put on shocks and a tour pack, and then we went up to my buddy's shop here and had him put on a new tire. We put on a new tire because our old one was getting pretty close to being worn out. And we were going on a trip to Key West, which was like 2,500 miles. I didn't want to be down there in the heat and have that tire just go to complete shit. We were down away from home and it just gonna get bald. And I'm glad it didn't, because we hit a horrible rainstorm on the way back. I don't remember any real wobble going to the shop, but coming home there was a little bit of a wobble because I ride the highway home. And on this highway, if you're not going 80, 85, you're going to get run over. After all that, I kept messing with the shocks. You know, it was my first time riding this bike with a big tour pack. I was blaming it on that. Kept messing around with the shocks. You know, multiple things have been changed at one time. It was a brand new tire. I wasn't expecting it to be the tire, which we're not 100% sure yet. But we are on stock shocks. So I'm going to get this thing up to 80, 85 and see what happens. Yeah, this bike's riding great. It's riding like it's brand new. Nothing is moving on this bike. I would love to get close to a transfer truck, make the bike wobble so I can really feel it. I don't see any transfer trucks behind me though, so we'll just crank down on the throttle and see if we can't catch up to one. Yeah, this bike feels like it did when it was brand new. Now this is the stock shocks. I do want to, you know, say that we are going to switch out and we're going to put the Legends back on, try to get that set up. We've got, you know, 6 days before we take a trip. I'm cruising at 80 with one hand, and before I couldn't do that. The whole bike would just wobble, and I could feel it starting in the rear of the bike, and it would kind of push the bike and just pitch it back and forth. Kind of like when you ride next to a transfer truck and you get that wind deflection. What I call it is when you kind of get in the backside of a transfer truck, I call it like the dirty air. When you get in there, you're just getting whipped around. Well, that's what the bike felt like constantly. So that was definitely a no-go. But I'm finally happy that we got this figured out. I hope. It feels great now. It didn't feel this good with the stock shocks bringing it up there. I don't know if we're going to catch up to a transfer truck, but we're just going to keep going on the highway and see what happens. Alright, we finally caught up to a transfer truck. So I'm just going to pass it nice and slow and see how the bike reacts. The bike does say low range though, so I don't know. I hope we don't run out of gas. I'm kind of committed, so we'll see what happens. As I'm coming up on it, it starts to, the front end is deflecting, but I feel it in the front, not the rear. And this feels fine. That's 100% deflection off the front. That is so much better than it's ever been. I can't describe to you guys how bad this bike was. I tried to get it on video, tried to show what was going on, and you couldn't ever really tell. It was a feeling. We did get the front end adjusted because it failed like the swing test, and that was better. But as soon as I rode home, I realized the front end was not the problem. With it being a little loose, yeah, you could feel it through it, but as soon as that was 100% corrected, you knew for a fact that wobble was coming from the rear. So I am so happy we have gotten this figured out. And then of course, you know, riding around town, I really didn't have much of an issue. But this problem has been on my brain almost all year for 4,000 miles. It even got to the point to where I was riding a dyno a lot more just because I didn't want to mess with this bike. I knew it had an issue. I couldn't figure out the issue. And it just kind of got me a little bit scared with the bike and a little bit defeated. Like I didn't know what to do. You know, I had a couple people look at it and you don't want to blame the brand new tire. And finally, when I started losing air pressure on that tire, overnight, it would lose like 10 pounds. You know, at that point, it was enough. I got to get a new tire regardless. So I was just hoping that was the issue. And sure enough, I believe it is. But we're not going to end it here. We're definitely going to throw on the Legend shocks, get them adjusted up, and see how that goes. I'm not going to say we're out of the woods because I need to go back to the Legends. I paid good money. I need to run them. We don't want to keep these stock shocks on here. But for now, I'm happy. For tonight, we're going to call it a win. We're going to go to bed happy and excited for the next day to put these shocks back. And hopefully, we will be completely squared away for being able to ride to New Jersey for the race, gentlemen. I'm excited.
Alright guys, we're going to put the Legend shocks on, and I'm not going to mess with anything as far as the settings go. We're just going to throw them on and see if that tire really was the problem. We got the bike, threw the bags off real quick. We got the Legends back in the box. Stock shocks on this thing. I'm not going to bore you guys with doing the actual work. I've covered that in another video. But we changed tire out. I'm believing that's the problem. I've probably put 100 miles on this thing with a new tire and stock suspension. I'm certain that's the problem. But just to be sure, I'm going to throw these shocks back on with no adjustment. I'm not going to touch the preload, not going to touch the rebound. We're going to throw it on and hit the road, see what we get. Alright, just like that, we got the Legend shocks on there. Left it on the 3 setting. That's where we had it. Did not touch the preload at all. So let's throw the bags on, go hit the highway, and see if we're still feeling pretty good. I really don't want to take these shocks back off, and I want these to work. And I'm pretty confident. I'm 99% confident that our issues are fixed. But as I'm filming this, we're going to the Race of Gentlemen in a few days, and that's almost a 500-mile trip in one day. So I got to get this right.
Alright guys, we're about to hit the highway. From what I've felt so far, just getting to this point, bike feels great. Feels really close to stock. Definitely not as harsh, not quite as stiff. That's how it should feel. I think that I thought, you know, when I put these shocks on the first time, because I only rode it like 20 miles with the new shocks and the old tire. I had the shocks on, I rode it straight to my guy to get a new tire, and you know, I just thought that's how it was. Let's get on the highway real quick and see how we feel. Alright, so we're cruising 80. Not something I really wanted to do before. I'm happy. The bike is not wobbling. I can do this. This is good to go. Yeah, the bike doesn't feel quite as harsh. I don't really want to use the word soft anymore. Before, it definitely felt soft. But the bike doesn't feel nearly as squishy. It feels, you know, firm yet soft, if that's I don't know how to say it. Before, when I had the softer shocks and that squishy tire, this thing would float, and not in a good way. It would float like an old Cadillac that just had suspension for days. When you hit a bump, it would just do this for a little while before it settled out. And that's not something you want to do on a bike. So this feels pretty good. It's definitely controlled. I am ecstatic with how this feels. And I know I'm good to go when I ride 2 up, because before, when I would ride 2 up, the problem actually went away or didn't get as bad. And I think a lot of that just comes from the bike was bouncing more by myself versus riding 2 up. So I think we got a winner here. I think we finally got this figured out. We're going almost 80. I'm actually gonna slow down and get in this truck's little wind path right here. It's not throwing the bike around like it would before. Pass it with no problem. Because I'm cruising one hand. I'm digging this. Before, the bike absolutely hated this. It just couldn't do it. So I'm happy. Now we're going 90, no problem. Back to around 85. This is probably where I'll be all day Friday. Just headed the other direction. So I can live with this. Bike feels great again. It finally does. Thankfully. I started to get a little nervous and a little scared with this thing. It made me very uneasy when I rode it. I'm really happy to be back on it, comfortable, and just know that the bike will do what it's supposed to do. I'm ecstatic. So we're just going to hop off this exit coming, or the next one coming up. We're going to head on back home. The bike's ready to go for the trip. I'm happy. Yeah, we're headed to the race with gentlemen. By the time you guys see this video, we'll already be there. I'm glad I got the bike straight. If you guys have any questions, comments, definitely hit them up in the below here, and I will try my best to answer them. If I left anything out and y'all have a question about it, hit me up. I'll do my best to answer them and whatnot. If you could please, this video specifically, if you have made it this far, hit a like on this. This has been almost an entire year that I've been dealing with this problem. Mainly because I have to be going that fast to really experience the problem. But it's over. And I'm so glad that it's over. So please hit that like button. If you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I'm sure there's a button for everything. But subscribe if you haven't. We got more videos coming up. We're going to try our damnedest to keep that upload schedule true. But as always, keep it wretched.